So I had went back to this brainwave training in Sedona, and they had like a female shaman that was kind of leading the practice, and I think that their opinion on sexuality is not in exact alignment with me, but it's definitely more progressive than some. I don't think she was very supportive of my previous work. I think that she thinks that there was like a lot of energy exchange that maybe I wasn't conscious of or consenting to, which is probably true, and that there was maybe some ties there that I needed to kind of cut and pull. And yeah, so I think there was a lot to that, and I think that even just those seeds kind of getting planted helped with that work.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I remember I said something yesterday that I was like, oh, I want to check in with Candice about that, where I was like, anytime you're in an orgasmic state, like all of your chakras open and you're doing energy exchange with that person. And I was just like, oh, like, I don't know how often you were in a full orgasmic state, or like, do you feel like you did exchange energy with people that you don't necessarily want their imprint in your nervous system anymore?
Well, I guess the question is no matter what, is the act of penetration creating an exchange regardless?
Well, I don't feel qualified to answer that question. I would assume to some degree yes, because it's like someone's body inside of your vessel. But the thing that I feel more qualified to speak on would be like those orgasmic states, like the brain states of orgasm and the neurochemistry that's happening. Whereas like that is my understanding is where all of the energy centers are opening and there's an exchange that happens. So yeah, but what's your feeling of it?
I think that we have, and I think probably especially as women, we have the ability to also be on the defense. Like we're not necessarily like that damsel in distress, even energetically speaking. I think we can be very powerful and like hold our own space and protect our space, even if because that goes beyond the physical. So even though there is another physical body inside of me at that point, I think from an energetic standpoint, and I was not capable of at the time, but I think if you are meditating and you're very aware of yourself and like your own space and like your own energy, that you could technically protect it in that case. I was not there, so I know I was not doing that. So I probably was having a lot of exchange regardless. And as far as orgasmic state during it, I would say maybe like 20% of the scenes would get there. So like there definitely were people, but I typically only worked with people that I kind of vetted ahead of time. Like I liked who they were as a person. Cool. So it wasn't like this exchange of someone who was like a bad person or
like a total stranger, someone that your body was like, no.
Yeah. So I think that helps.
It's very interesting though to like create a meditation or create a guided experience for people in the industry to be like, hey, like this is a way for you to create like an energetic boundary around yourself, or to sort of like actively close those energy centers so that like this is like the most intimate part of yourself, so that you have that to use how you desire. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, it makes you more intentional about the act. Yeah,
but good for you for doing the extraction, and also good for you for being open to like re-examining the snakes. So the snakes are really common. Like it's you'll see them on the caduceus, which is the American Medical Association. It's like a sword with two snakes coming up it. You'll see them in a lot of iconography on the cover of like Joe Dispenza's books, and what it's representing is this like historically what would be called Kundalini energy, what I'm calling creation energy, because it's like it has this energy, has the ability to create a whole nother human. It's like one of the most divine things we could do as a human is make another human. And yet every time we go into these ecstatic orgasmic states, we're not creating a human. And yet we have that level of divinity, that level of creation energy available to us. So the snakes often will represent like the rising of that energy, like from your root up to your crown. And, we did an exercise as well where you said you could feel your cerebral spinal fluid, like moving, I think you said like nitrogen.
Yeah, just like felt like liquid nitrogen just going up. Yeah. So cold and powerful.
Yeah, and so there is this fluid that goes up and down the spine and actually encases our brain. And it's called cerebral spinal fluid. So people who do craniosacral work are actually like putting pressure on the occipital bone, which is the base of the brain, which stops the flow of the cerebral spinal fluid, which creates like very regenerative brain states. That creates a lot of healing for the body, because it's almost like you're inducing like very deep rest or even like borderline death, because it's like that fluid is always moving just like we're always breathing. So to pause it, it's like the brain can then run some repair. And so it's powerful stuff. And when you activate it in the right way, you can send that energy and that fluid like up to your pineal gland, and you can induce gamma states of consciousness. You can induce like orgasmic states of consciousness. And so it's a fun tool to play with, but just letting people know that it's like been used for tens of thousands of years in lots of different cultures. And if you see those snakes, it's interesting that like for a lot of cultures that was like the path to enlightenment, the path to God. But then in our mythology, in like the Christian traditions, it's like, oh well, the snake was like the introducer of evil. Right, like the one that like had them fall from heaven, fall from grace. And it's like, wow, it's this shame, this cultural conditioning around our own internal bliss chemistry is so outrageously deep that we likely cannot even see the forest for the trees because we're all just swimming in it.